Welcome to WiseMo Tutorials. This tutorial will give you an overview of how to prepare a Mac computer for remote control. To keep the video short, there are separate videos about installation on the specific operating systems we support. Please look in the instruction videos page in the MacLeod menu to the left. Remote controlling a device requires two apps. One app on the device you want to control, we call that the host, and another app on the device you want to control from, we call that the guest. The functionality of Remote Desktop is simply transferring the host screen from the host to the guest and send keyboard and mouse events from the guest to the host. If you haven't already watched the general video about preparing a computer or device for remote control, I suggest to watch it first. You can of course find it in the instruction videos page. Let's look at the MacLeod user interface. At this point, you should have created and verified a MacLeod domain. Please log into your MacLeod domain. When you log in the first time, you will be sent to the deployment page, because you need to install at least one host app on a device that you can remote control. If you just created a domain, MacLeod will suggest a series of actions you will need to do to have your first successful remote control connection. Here we can see that MacLeod suggests to install a host app. MacLeod will detect the kind of host you need for the operating system you're running on. So if you want to control this device, you can simply click on the host app link. If you have dismissed this message, you can find all the pre-configured deployment configurations in the host column below. You can edit, delete, and create new configurations. You can even pre-configure all settings for the host app that will be installed. Find the macOS configuration and click it. Here you can download a host installer for macOS. Download the installation program and run it. The installer will present a wizard that you should go through by clicking the Continue button. Click Continue. When you click Continue here, you will be prompted to accept the license agreement. Accept the license agreement by clicking Agree. You can change the installation folder if you want to install to a different folder. Click Install. macOS will prompt you to allow the installation program to install the host app. The form looks a bit different depending on the macOS version you're running, but you should generally enter a password for a user with admin rights. Enter the password for the account. Click Install Software to continue, and wait for the installation to complete. This will launch the Host Manager interface. When the manager is started, it will check for permissions to capture the screen and simulate input from mouse and keyboard. If the host app doesn't have these permissions, it will show the screen to let you configure it. The host app has two modules that you will need to configure for this. A module to handle the login desktop and a module to handle the user desktop. As you can see, all the lights are red, and there should be green when everything is configured successfully. Let's start to configure it. Click the first test button. This will trigger a macOS prompt. Click Open System Preferences. As you see, screen recording is selected. Before continuing, you should log in order to make changes. Click the padlock and log in. Find and check the WiseMo Host Mac P. Please note that you might have to scroll down in the list to find it. It's not necessary to restart at this point, so click later. Return to the host configuration dialog. Click the test button again, and now you see it became green. Now click the test button below Accessibility. Accessibility is where you configure keyboard and mouse simulation. This opens a similar prompt as last time. Click Open System Preferences. As you see, accessibility is now selected. Find and check WSM Host Mac P. Return to the host configuration dialog. Click the test button again. And again it became green. Now we move to the configuration of the user desktop. Click the first test button below Screen Recording. Click Open System Preferences. Find and check WSM Host Mac A. Back to the host configuration dialog. Click Test. Click the next test button below Accessibility. You see the dialog appeared again. But there's a different way to open the macOS preferences if you do not see the macOS prompt that might be hidden below other windows. Let's try to click this button. As you can see, it opened System and Privacy again. Find and check WSM Host Mac A. Back to the host configuration dialog. Click Test. The last thing you can configure here is WiseMo's file transfer's ability to access the disk. If you click Test, you will see this message saying that there's no access to the disk. For disk access, there's no macOS prompt and you will have to click the button Open Full Disk Access Preferences. Find WiseMo Host Manager and check it. Again, you don't have to restart, so just click later. Back to the host configuration dialog. Click Test. That was it. Everything is green. Click Continue. If you would like to review this dialog later, click the WiseMo Host Manager menu and select Review Security and Privacy Permissions. You can also open macOS System Preferences and open Security and Privacy manually. And go to Privacy. Here you can go to Screen Recording, Accessibility, and Full Disk Access. The user interface will normally be hidden when you log in. You can manually show the user interface from the status bar. Find the host icon with the cloud and the stripes. And click it to open the menu and select Show Hide. Before moving on, I'll just explain a bit about the configuration of the host app you just installed. When deployed from MyCloud, the host app is pre-configured to join your MyCloud domain. If we look at the remote control guest page, you can see your host is already online here. The host app is also configured to use MyCloud Device Access Control, where authentication and authorization is controlled centrally via the MyCloud web interface. In this interface, you can control who's allowed to connect to which device and what they're allowed to do. By default, all MyCloud users are allowed to do everything on all devices. You will probably want to change that. There's a separate tutorial about MyCloud Device Access Control. Back to the Host Manager. The Host Manager consists of a navigation pane, a status and configuration pane, and a toolbar. This pane shows the host status. We can see that the host is running, meaning it's ready for remote control. You can also see the host ID and username, which is information the guest user can see and use to identify which device to connect to. The IP address is only relevant for direct connections over TCP. In this group, you can see which protocols the host can receive connections on. In this case, it can receive connections over the internet via the MyCloud domain, WiseMo Demo, and on the TCP and UDP protocols. When there's an active connection, you will see it in the active guest connections list. Note that a host can have multiple simultaneous connections. In this next pane, you can easily see who's been connected to your computer. There's an advanced logging functionality with much more details that I'll show a bit later. The next tab we have in the navigation pane is the Configuration tab. Here you can configure a lot of program options and security features for the host app. In general, you can, for example, configure the host not to be available for remote control connections when it starts. You can also configure it to stop accepting connections after a certain period of time. When changing something, you should remember to press the Apply button. Some changes will take immediate effect, and others will prompt you to press the Restart button in the toolbar. The option Show in Dock determines whether the host app will show its icon in the macOS dock. It might be convenient to hide it from the dock because it takes up space. When disabling it, you will have to restart the host manager. We can do that from the menu or from the status bar icon. Start the host manager again from Applications. Now there's no dock icon and the system menu disappeared. Therefore, you will have to use the status bar icon to show or quit the host manager. Let's go back to Configurations and continue with the host name. In host name, you can change the name that is shown to the guest user. By default, it will use your computer name. In Guest Access Privileges, you can see that the host app is configured for My Cloud Device Access Control. You can also see that even though you would make a direct connection via TCP, it will use your domain for authentication. The host can be configured to use other authentication methods than My Cloud Device Access Control. For example, to use System Security Management. With System Security Management, guest users are authenticated with their local macOS account. By placing the macOS user and groups in the various roles, you can control what they're allowed to do when connected. You can even require that a guest user should be two-factor authenticated. Let's jump to logging. There are a lot of events that you can log. You can log them to a local plaintext file or to the macOS console log. The last thing I'll show you is the maintenance password. The maintenance password can protect two things: configuration changes and starting and stopping the host from receiving remote control connections. When a maintenance password is configured, the user will be prompted for the password when applying configuration changes or starting or stopping listening for connections. This concludes this tutorial. If you need help with the installation process of a host on another operating system, please find the video in the instruction videos page. Thank you for watching.